What's up guys, Norwood here, and if you want to learn how to code using Python in an easy to understand way, this channel is for you. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you all about Python functions so you can go from zero to function hero. So by the end of this video, you know what a function is, how to use them, and you can start implementing them in your code. So without any further ado, let's get this started guys. Let's go! Okay guys, so before we actually start writing out our own functions, I want to give you a high-level definition of what they are so that you have a better understanding going into that. Now, what are functions? According to some definition on the internet, a function can be defined as a chunk of code that you can use basically over and over again without having to rewrite it all the time, right? Now, there's some truth to that. I don't think that's a very thorough definition or accurate definition. So here's how I would define what a function is. A function is a block of code that is written to perform specific tasks in a program. Okay? Now, the beauty of functions are that it makes your code a lot cleaner. So it makes it easier to write, read, test, fix, maintain, manage, so on and so forth. Another beautiful thing, guys, about using functions in your code is that it allows you to not have to be repetitive when writing your code. Meaning, whenever you want your program to perform a specific task, all you have to do is call that function. And whenever you want to perform a specific task, you call that function responsible for the task you want performed at whatever time you want it performed. So it's very nice to have functions throughout your code. It breaks your program into smaller, more modular chunks, meaning it makes it more manageable for larger projects. If something goes wrong, if you have everything built out in functions, all you have to do is go back to the function that's responsible for whatever is going wrong and fix it, as opposed to having to search through all your code. It's not organized, so on and so forth. So now that I kind of explained what functions are at a high level, let's go ahead and start running our own functions. Okay guys, so I'm going to be using the web-based IDE Replit. If you haven't heard about it, I'm going to show you exactly how to get there. So let's go ahead and get started. So just go to Google. Let's do that. Replit.com. Now I'm already logged in. You may have to create an account. It's free. But once you're logged in, you just go to create. You go to Python, and you go ahead and name this. Let's name it functions lesson. Okay? And then you go to create REPL. Okay guys, so now that we're all logged in, we have our REPL open. Let's start writing a very basic function. The function we are going to write first is going to be a function that's responsible for just greeting a user. Okay? Now, let's get started. So, in order to define a function in Python, you need to start with the def keyword, okay? You need to name your function afterwards. So we're going to name this greet_user. And remember, in variable names, function names, you can't have spaces, so you can use an underscore in replace of that. Now, after the function name, you need a set of parentheses, okay? And we are going to get into parameters in our next example. So hang on for that, and after that you need a colon, okay? And I'm going to write a comment here to the right of this and say this is a function definition, if I can spell definition. There we go. This is a function definition, okay? So basically what a function definition is, we're defining a function. We're telling Python, hey, we are creating a function on line 1 and it's named greet_user. Okay, so now that the function definition is out of the way, let's continue building out our function, guys. Again, this function is going to be a very simple one. Its responsibility is solely to greet a user. So how we're going to do that is just by using a print statement that's going to say something along the lines of, hello, welcome to the lesson on functions, ! Okay? Now I'm going to write a comment to the right of this, and this is going to say this is the functions code block. I don't like how that wrapped, so let me go ahead and pull the console back. There we go. So yes, line 2, the print statement that's going to greet the user and welcome them to the function lesson, is the functions code block because it's within the confines it's indented within the confines of the greet user function. Now in Python, indentation is very, very important when it comes to functions and just every aspect of Python. Okay, now as you can see, there is no red squiggly line telling me that, hey, something is wrong with your code, and that is because line 2 is properly indented within the greet user function. Now as soon as I backspace though out of the function, as you can see, line 2 has a red squiggly line indicating an indentation error. Now let me show you what an indentation error looks like. Let me just go ahead and run that code, and if you move this over a little bit, it says at line 2 right here, starting with the print statement, there is an indentation error. Okay, and it says Python expected an indented block. So again, when writing functions, you have to make sure that the code block is indented within the confines of the function and not outside of it or on the same line or level as it. Okay, so let me go ahead and tab this back over. You can see the red squiggly line is gone. Let's run this code again, and you can see the indentation error is no longer. Okay, so that's all of the functionality we want from this very basic function. So with that being said, you would think that it'll work, right? The message will get printed to the console. Let's go ahead and try it out. As you can see, nothing happened. Now why is that? Like I just said, our functionality is done. This is all we wanted our function to do, but it's not working for some reason. Well, that's because in Python you have to use something that's called a function call in order for Python to know that you want it to run the code within a certain function. So how you use a function call or write a function call is very simple. So our function's name is greet user. So all you have to do is write out the function name, greet user, with a set of parentheses at the end, and that's it. And this, again, I'm going to write a comment to the right of it and say this is a function call for our function greet underscore user. Now that we have our function call, when I run this code, we are going to see the print statement actually print out to the console. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see, our welcome message actually printed out this time. Hello, welcome to the lesson on functions, exclamation mark. And again, that is because Python, or we told Python, hey, look for a function called greet user. I want you to run its code so that my print statement can print to the console. And that is why we got hello, welcome to the lesson on functions to the right in the console after running our code. Okay, and with that being said, guys, our first function example is done. We have the function definition, we have our print statement, which is the function's code block, and we have our function call telling Python to run our function greet user. So let's get into a little bit more complex function. Nothing crazy. In fact, it's going to be basically the same function, but we're going to be greeting a user by name, and that is going to take what's called a parameter. Okay, so let's define this function. Again, you start with the def keyword, and we're going to name this function greet user by name. Okay, but this time, like I said, it's going to take a parameter, and parameters always go inside the function, the function's parentheses. Now you can name the parameters anything, but based on this function and what it's supposed to return and what it's supposed to do, we're just going to name this name, okay? Because again, we want this to greet a user by name. Now, a parameter is basically a placeholder, guys, for some value that is going to be passed into the function at a later time, and those are called arguments, and we're going to get into that when we reach our function call for this function, okay? So remember your colon, and I'm going to write a comment to the right of this, and it's going to say this is a function definition that takes in one param. Param is short for parameter. You're going to see that a lot, okay? Okay guys, so now that our function definition is done, let's go ahead and start working on the code block, alright? Now, Again, this function is responsible for greeting a user by name. So we're going to use another print statement, but this time it's going to be an F string. And I'm going to explain this once we get to the function call, okay? So let me just write it out. It's going to be hello, brackets, name. And then we're going to say welcome to the lesson on functions. And I'm going to write a comment to the right side of this, and it's going to say this is the functions code block. Again, the code block is indented within the confines of the greet user by name function. As you can see, there is no red squiggly line indicating a indentation error, so everything is perfectly fine. I just wanted to bring up again that it's very important when using Python that you indent properly, especially when using functions. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and start working on our function call because it's a bit different than our first example. Okay, so now let's get to the function call. Now again, it's going to be a little bit different because our function requires a parameter, or an argument, I'm sorry. So we're going to go ahead and write the name of the function in its entirety, like we have to, a set of parentheses, but this time, because our function definition has a parameter, we need to put something inside of the parentheses, or else this function is not going to work. We're going to get a type error, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and show you the type of error we're going to get by not putting anything in the parentheses, okay? So as you can see, we get a type error. It says greet user by name is missing one required positional argument, name. Okay, and that is referring to this placeholder of name right here in the function definition in line 7. So to get rid of that error, all you have to do is pass through a value that you want to replace the placeholder with. So we are going to use my name Robert. So Robert will be the argument, again, that is passed into the function in replace of our parameter name, which is just a placeholder. Okay, and as you can see in line 8, using the F string, we have the same placeholder of name inside of brackets in this string right here. So once I pass in my name of Robert to the function in this function call, not only is the argument of Robert going to replace the parameter in the function definition, but it's going to get passed through to the F string on line 8, and Robert is going to replace the name with the brackets. Okay, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead and run this code, and as you can see, it says hello Robert, welcome to the lesson on functions. And if you look at line 8, it says hello comma name brackets, welcome to the lesson on functions. So that is how you use parameters and arguments. A parameter is used when you create the function definition, so line 7, and an argument is passed in to replace the parameter when you create the function call. Now, I know that can be confusing, so if you need to watch this over again, please do so. I know I stumbled on this as a beginner, but once you get the hang of it, once you realize the distinction, it's really, really simple to understand, okay? Okay, guys, and that's it for that function. So the function with one parameter is complete. We have the function call, we have the code block, and we have the function definition with the parameter, okay? So let's do one more function, but let's make it have 2 parameters, okay? I want to show you what multiple parameters look like, how it differs from one parameter. It's not a very big difference, but there is something that I want to show you. So let's just create the same function again, guys. It's going to be greet users by name, and it's going to take a name 1 and a name 2. Again, I'm sorry, almost forgot the colon, and I'm going to do a comment. This is a function definition that takes 2. params. Okay, and I'm going to push this console back a little bit. I'm actually going to go ahead and comment out this so you don't get confused. And here is our new function. Its responsibility is going to be to greet 2 users now instead of just 1. Okay, so now that the function definition is done, let's start working on the code block. Okay guys, so now that the function definition is complete, let's start working on the code block and what we want inside of the function. Now I want to do this a little bit different from what we've been doing. These past 2 examples we've been using print statements to print out our message, but this time I want to use a return statement. I want to return a value from this function, and that value that we're returning is going to be our welcome message to these 2 individuals, name 1 and name 2. Okay, now print statements are very useful when you're developing programs, apps, websites, and stuff like that, because it allows you to see exactly what your code is doing, if it's working properly and things like that. But when using functions, you really want to be returning values from them so that the computer can use those values elsewhere. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we're indented properly, and we are. And we're just going to return directly by using the keyword return. And we're going to return an F string just like above, but instead of a print statement where we need parentheses and all that stuff, we don't need it. We can return the F string directly like this, and we're just going to say, hey, name 1 and name 2, comma, welcome to the lesson on functions, exclamation mark. Okay, and that's it. Again, this isn't a print statement. We're returning this F string from this function. So when this function gets called, this is what this value is going to be returned, and the value is going to be the F string. Okay, so let's start working on this function call. So we're going to start working on the function call, but real quick, I did want to touch back on the return statement. So basically the return statement takes a value from inside a function and sends it back to the line that called the function. Okay, I don't think I gave you a proper definition, so that's a more proper definition than what I explained before. A return statement is just going to take the value from inside the function that we are returning and send it back to the line that called the function. Now, line 17 is where we are going to create our function call. And like always, guys, we start creating the function call by creating or writing the name of our function in its entirety. And since this function has 2 parameters, which are called positional parameters, we need both parameters in order for this function to run. Now, I'm going to go ahead and run this code and show you exactly what I mean. So we run this code, we get a type error again. You saw this before, but this time it's saying it's missing 2 required positional arguments, name 1 and name 2. Alright, so just to prove even further that we need both, let me just go ahead and put Bob, and we're gonna just put 1 argument in, we're gonna leave the other one out, we're gonna get the same error, type error. Now we're missing one required positional argument, and that's name 2. So let's go ahead and write this function call correctly. Let's go ahead and say Jenny for name 1, and let's go ahead and say Will for name 2. Okay, so again, let's write a comment. This is our function call that is passing in 2 arguments to replace the name 1 and name 2 placeholders. Alright, so when we call this function, nothing's gonna happen. And you know why nothing's gonna happen? That is because we are returning the F string instead of printing it to the console. So if we want to be able to see the value that's being returned from this function, we have to print it to the console. Alright, so in order to do that, you just have to wrap the function call in a print statement. Okay, just like this. And when we run the code, there we go. Alright, let's move this over a little bit, and you're going to say, hey Jenny and Will, welcome to the lesson on functions. So, I know that was probably confusing, but when you return a value from a function, it's not going to be printed to the console. You have to intentionally print that value if you want to see it, okay? And in order to do that, you have to print the function call, which is what we did here on line 17. Alright, so that is it. That is our function with 2 parameters, and I think that's going to wrap up this function video. We covered a lot, and I'm going to make more videos on functions, diving deeper, making more complex functions, but I believe this is a great start for beginners. I hope you guys learned a lot. If you like this video, you want more content like this, please subscribe, like, share with friends, and until next time, have a great one. I'll see you at my next video.